Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining. So we're really excited to have Emma Reynolds on today because, as you might know, Emma is an amazing children's author and illustrator, children's book author and illustrator, and she's recently released this amazing book called Amara and the Bats. And the stories that we tell about bats, yeah, there it is. The stories about bats are really important because they really shape people's opinions of bats and can have a massive influence, especially on kids. So we're really honored to be joined with you today, Emma, and to hear about, the story behind your book.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to chat to you again. So I wrote and illustrated this book, like I already said, called Amara and the Bats. And it's all about a little girl called Amara who loves bats, and her favourite thing to do is collect bat facts and write them in her notebook and to watch bats outside with her family. But she's really sad when they move to a new town because there's no bats that are living there anymore because they're losing their habitat. So, inspired by real-life youth activists, she rallied her friends and her community to save the bats. So that's the basic story without spoiling too much. Have you got any questions about anything else about it, Emily, before I ramble on?
Yeah, we have loads of questions. And also, if anyone watching has questions, feel free to type them in the comments and we'll be sure to get to them. I guess to start, what was your inspiration in writing this book and why did you choose bats?
That's a great question. So I've always loved bats since I was a kid. And a few years ago in 2016, I drew a little sketch of a little girl, and in my mind, she was always called Amara. And I drew her kind of arms behind her back, looking up curiously, and I imagined her looking at a bat. And I thought, okay, let's combine my love of bats with this little cute little character and make up a story for her. And it's always been about a girl loving bats. And it's gone through many, many versions, but in the end it became a story all about conservation. And I think that was another reason why I wanted to make this book, because bat conservation is really important to me, and having a book with a human at the centre so people could directly put themselves in the shoes of the main character and see how they could help bats. That was like my goal, and it's just to help bats essentially.
Fantastic. And what got you interested in bats?
People ask me that, and I wish I had a great question like, a bat got trapped in my attic, just like in Amara and the Bats. But I just always loved them and they're really cute. And when I was really young, I made this kit with my mum, which was like a bat sewing kit, and I requested that we put Velcro on the bum so that it could hang upside down on my bunk bed. And I've actually in the book, that the bedroom looks just like my 90s bedroom, which is good because it's back on trend now. But this part, that's my bat from when I was a kid.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Plushie is the same as my one I had. And I remember seeing fruit bats in the zoo and thinking they were so adorable. But as people who've read the book know, the main focus on the book is microbats, because I think a lot of people know about fruit bats and they're super adorable. I really wanted to give the microbats some love.
Yeah, definitely. And they certainly need our love because they've faced many conservation threats, and they're really less known about because they're nocturnal and they're kind of out of sight and out of mind, and that creates a lot of myths about them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Which is why
more microbats than any other kind of bat. So I thought it would be great to show people the kind of bat they most likely have around them statistically in a book that they're most likely to actually see, but if they know when and where to look.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so the main character of your book is a child. Can you talk about why you decided to write a children's book, and is it aimed, why is it important to aim these stories at children?
Okay, so the reason I made a picture book is because I personally just love the format, but I definitely think picture books are for any age. Like, they always have a reading age, but that's to be taken with a pinch of salt. It's a bit like Lego, or Legos as they're known in the US. It's kind of like ages 3 to 99, kind of, and 100 plus. They're just another way of storytelling. So I would say it's aimed mostly at ages 5 to 8. Or 4 to 9, but it's really for anyone who loves bats. But I do think it's super important to write books for the younger generation, because picture books are so powerful. Like, you know, they stay with us forever. Like those stories that we read, they're often our first ever experiences of stories. And, you know, they've read it usually at night time before bed. You feel really safe, like snuggled up together. And I think that's such a powerful way to instill inspiration. It can, you know, it can impart wisdom about life. It can inspire kids in their career. It can teach empathy. I think that they're just really, really powerful mediums. And they're a great learning tool as well for schools and SciComm in general. And I'm really looking forward to taking this into schools and teaching the kids about pets.
That's fantastic. I love following your stories on Instagram while you're reading the book and everything. It's quite nice to see. The wing costumes are great. Yeah. So I think when a lot of people who are bat lovers often get interested in bats because they had some kind of experience with the bat when they were young. And I've also seen that you've done a lot of work about climate change and like kids getting involved in climate change. So can you talk about the Kids for Light, or was it Kids Light for Climate? Yeah, can you talk about that program?
So it's shortened kids literature. It's Kid Lit for Climate. So that started in February 2019 when the youth climate strikes were getting a lot of attention in the UK press, but they were getting a lot of negative attention, and a lot of those news articles have now been removed because they kind of tried to rewrite history and pretend they weren't ever criticising them, but they were. And at that point it was a February day and it was a massive heat wave and it was really, really scary. I was wearing shorts in February. Everyone was like, oh, this doesn't feel normal. And I think that's, for me, when it really hit home that it's not about, you know, this distant future thing. Like, climate change is here now, it's happening now. Thank you for the hashtag, Emily, that's the one.
Thank you.
This was before, you know, any books had come out about the climate activists. They were literally just hitting the news in this country and they were getting criticism. And so I thought, okay, what's something I can do in my field that could make a difference? And so I thought, right, I'll ask 30 of my friends to draw an illustration of them holding up a sign saying, Kid Lit for Climate, listen to the young people. Like, you know, if we can't show that we stand or that we are in solidarity with them, what are we even doing? Because we make all our content for young people, let's show them that we support them. And I thought I'd get maybe 30 illustrations, but I ended up getting 2,000 in 2 weeks. And then I've lost count now, it's definitely around 4,000 to 5,000 illustrations in support of the youth climate strikes now, but I've lost count because there's many other hashtags and art things about that now, but at the time it was the only one. And yeah, it was just a nice way to support them, and I've stayed in touch with a few of the activists, so it's nice.
That's fantastic. That's an amazing turnout.
Yeah, it was really good. We've collaborated with a few other people since, like parent climate groups, and most recently we collaborated with Acts for Food, Act for Change, which is a youth-led food activism group. So yeah, there's more to come. I'm taking a tiny break on the Instagram at the moment, but you can go check out the kind of archive or check the hashtag for artwork.
Yeah, I definitely recommend doing that because it's very uplifting and inspiring, and you know, if you want some kind of hope in your life, that's a good thing to check out. Yeah. So speaking of impact, going back to your recently released book, what kind of impact do you hope it has, and have you seen it have already?
Well, I hoped that it would inspire kids to, you know, get outside, go bat watching, and maybe put up a bat box or bat house. And it has done that. And, you know, it's only been out like 6 or 7 weeks. And I've had such lovely messages from kids and parents on the kids' behalf saying like, oh, my kid ran upstairs and like immediately dressed like a bat. And they said like really touching stuff, like they've never seen the kids so engaged. I think because they really like that it has a fact and fiction, which like for like slightly older kids, they really, really like that. and a couple of families have put up a bat house already. Like, it's just been so lovely, like more than I could have ever hoped for. Like, kids seeing the bat drawings, just like, oh, my heart, it just it's so sweet. And that's like more than I hoped for, really. Like, even if that's it, and like, you know, that's what I wanted. So what I hope is that it can be used as an educational tool, like kind of around the world of, here's how you can help bats, here's why they're so important, in like kind of a guide. And I hope that it encourages the future bat conservationists.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've heard the book Stella Luna has inspired a lot of people to become bat lovers, and I really do feel like your book is having the same impact already, even though it's only been out for 7 weeks.
So yeah, because everyone who's from the US goes, oh my gosh, yeah, I love Stella Luna, I grew up with it, but we don't have it over here.
Oh, really?
It's not as popular for whatever reason. It should be, but it's like a classic in the US, but everyone here is like, what's Stella Luna?
Oh, really? That's so funny.
It's the Stella Luna, and I hope that it's like a good companion or whatever. The more bat books, the better, really. But yeah, it's so nice that more kids will find out about bats, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great to hear that it's, you know, reached what you've hoped and everything like that.
Yeah, I'd love to have translations of it. We're working on it.
Yeah.
We're pitching to foreign edition.
Yeah.
Now.
So what countries is your book available right now?
So it's available to order to any country, but the language is the US edition, which is the hardback, is written in American English, if that's the right word. So it has mom spelled MOM, and it has information about US bat houses, which are bigger. Mm-hmm. And the UK softback version is written in British English. I don't know the right term, but it's like bat houses we use here in the UK. So if you're in the UK or Europe, I'd recommend getting the softback. If you're in the US, North America, Mexico, South America, I'd recommend getting the US hardback. But unfortunately at the moment it's just in English language or American English.
Yeah. Well, always time for expansion. Fantastic.
So
we have one question.
We have time.
Sorry, I think there's a bit of a lag there, but we have one question from the audience from Donnie, which is, will you read the book to us? And maybe you're not able to read the full thing because you don't want to give away spoilers, but would you be able to read maybe a page of it?
Yeah, I'll read a couple of pages. I won't read the whole thing because it's quite long. It's quite a long picture book. So I'll just show you some of the pages. I'll show you the end paper as well, because that's one of my favourite parts. There's lots of little bat faces, which I really enjoy drawing these. There's more behind the front. Oh, okay. So you might recognise. Yeah, so the Mexican free-tailed bat there, that's the one that flies under the bridge in Austin, Texas, in their millions, which is really cool. I'd love to see that in person.
Yeah, it is really fantastic. If you're ever in Austin, definitely go see the Congress Avenue Bridge. Yeah. And do you know that bat is actually the world's fastest flying mammal in the world? It's faster than birds of prey, eagles. Yeah.
Wow, you know that. That's awesome. Go back. Okay.
Yeah.
This is the first page, and it says, Amara loves bat. And I'll just read the next page. This is the one I was referencing when she first falls in love with bats because she sees a bat in her attic. It says, when Amara was very small, a bat got trapped in the attic of her old house. There's Amara and her mum and brother. Amara asked if she could hold the bat, but her mum and big brother Samir told her they should wait for the wildlife rescue team. They would know how to handle and look after the bat safely. There you go. And there's a story, but it's also full of bat facts throughout, and at the back is lots of back matter, which means extra things. At the back there's lots of bat facts and tips of how you can put up your own bat house, a bit like BatBnB's one, and things like that. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for reading a few pages to us. It's so nice to see. Do we have any other questions from the audience about conservation, science education, or getting kids involved in bat conservation or science? Or
yeah, let us know. Happy to answer anything.
cool.
Thanks for coming, everybody. And I'm just scrolling up through the comments and see if I missed anything.
I have one question. What is the name of the book?
The book is called Amara and the Bats.
Fantastic.
I don't know if it's reversed or not, or if it's only reversed for me.
It's a bit reversed, but that's okay.
Yeah. If you go to my bio or to BatBnB's bio, they've got a blog post I did all about it, but I've got links to purchase there, and you can find out more about it if you want to.
Fantastic. And Emma, do you have any kind of final tips about how to, if you have a kid, how to possibly help get them excited about science or bat conservation?
Yeah, I think just encourage them, like go outside with them, obviously somewhere that you're familiar with, be safe and bring a torch and all that safety stuff. But the main thing is just to encourage their interest. There's so many free things you can do, literally, like going outside is free. You don't have to spend loads of money on a bat detector to see bats. You can just look up and the flight patterns can tell you what kind of bat it is. If you want to get them like a gift, you could get them like a bat sponsorship. Some bat charities, they give you like a plushie and a pin, which is really cool. Or you can join a bat charity and they send you like a magazine and you get like update. Or or you can put up a bat house in your garden, which is a great way to attract bats and is also, Emily can tell you more about the pest control side of things. But yeah, like you don't have to spend a bunch, but if you want to, that you can. It just depends. But the main thing for kids is just like encouraging them, getting them some bat books and having some fun learning bat facts.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and if you want to try to attract bats to live in your garden, which is really beneficial because bats can consume up to 1,000 mosquito-sized insects in a single hour. So not only is it really helpful for the bats because it gives them a safe place to live, but it also helps, reduce the need for pesticides and stuff in your yard and your community. So if you want to learn more about bat houses, check out batbnb.com. There's loads of information and tips about where to hang them and how to give your bat house the best chance for success. So.
Yeah. There's also some really good resources online and in the book actually about gardening for bats and like planting certain plants that smell nice at nighttime, pale flowers and things like that. So the more insects you get, the more bats you'll get, because the bats unless you live in somewhere tropical, you most likely to have an insectivorous bat. So you want to attract the most insects you can. So not using pesticides, things like that definitely helps. And if you have a cat, and I absolutely love cats, just a prerequisite there, try and keep your bat inside at all times if you can, but if not, at night time, just so they don't eat the bats, because they love to play with them and it kills them, unfortunately. So yeah,
definitely. We have one question from the audience, which is can you put up a bat house if you have strong winds? And the answer is yes, but you want to make sure that it's secured really strongly so it doesn't shake. If it's only secured at the top and the bottom shakes, that's not a really good suitable habitat for the bats. So you want to make sure it's secured on both the top and the bottom. Yeah,
and I'd say also make sure it gets enough sunlight, even if it's windy. They like to be toasty, so as long as they're warm enough as well as being secure, that should like offset the chilly wind a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, even though bats are nocturnal, they still are mammals like that, like us, and they like being warm. So the more sunlight your bat house can get, generally, the better odds it has.
Love them.
Yeah,
great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining, everyone. If you have any questions later, feel free to message BatBnB or Emma, and we'll be happy to get back to you. And thanks so much for joining.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Emily.
Yeah, thanks so much.